Hi, everyone. This is Ali Hussein Kasim of AliTalkstech, and this is season 3 of my podcast, really talking about the African tech stories. I'm super excited that my first episode of season 3 is with my good friend, Lenin Oyuga. And I specifically picked this conversation with Lenin and you'll know exactly what I mean when I introduce Lenin. So Lenin Oyuga is head of Telco digital partnerships for Middle East and Africa at Mastercard. Lenin, karibu sana.
Asante,
Welcome
asante.
to AliTalkstech studio.
I've been looking forward to be in your studio. So
Same here. Same here. I have been super looking forward to this conversation.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Lenin, as is my usual start to these conversations, I usually like to start with an intro on a bit of who Lenin is.
Yep.
And how have you ended up in this mark of deep conversations about telcos, fintechs, payments, the big major card global players across Africa, and obviously what is currently going on as far as M&E is concerned in the fintech ecosystem in Africa and the Middle East. My brother, over to you. Feel free. Let's have a conversation like we're having coffee. Of course, I'm fasting, but I'm happy for you to have your coffee as we have this conversation.
Absolutely. So thanks for having me, first of all. And that's quite a loaded question. So I'll do justice in pretty much introducing myself and answering it. So let's start by, Lenin is a father of 2 boys. And Lenin has been in the tech industry for about 16, 17 years. But I'll start, my journey starts in JKUAT. I wanted to be a pilot. I couldn't access those piloting courses at the time, so I ended up in electronic and computer engineering, which is something that I love to date. At JKUAT, so I was at JKUAT.
Where is your one there? Where is your one there at JKUAT?
It's your one. And back then it used to be called JKUCAT before it came to JKUAT. Yes. So I did my engineering degree back then, trained as a software engineer. And funny thing, my first stab at a job was in monitoring and evaluation in the NGO space, where I was in the data collection and automation of platforms to build monitoring and evaluation. It was an American NGO called JPIC back then, 2008. So I went from that.
I remember that company.
Yes. They do a lot of, family health and reproductive health programs. So I was in IT back then. Then I don't know if you remember, in 2010, we had the historical referendum where polling the mobile phone.
I remember.
So we were some of the devs that were trying to build this polling software and pretty much trying to tabulate that for the IEC, now IEB. Back then,
that's our electoral commission in Kenya.
Correct.
For those who don't live in Kenya.
Exactly. So I in my career, I was deep into tech. Very geeky on the coding side of things. I moved to Technobrain, where I was a solution architect building Microsoft solution. And after some time in Technobrain, I got a job with a company out of Guildford called SI. And SI does Internet of Things over the GSM network.
Okay.
The best way to be relatable to SI is to talk about M-Copper, which is the largest pay-as-you-go build, I think, in Kenya and in the region. Yes. And that's where my love with telco pretty much began, because we worked with Safaricom, we worked with M-Copper, and we were the tech company that were building that middle layer to do the device-to-device management. And after working with SI, I got a chance to run the Thomson Reuters business in the region out of Nairobi. So I was covering East Africa and the Indian Ocean Islands with a very fantastic.
That's how you and I initially reconnected, I remember.
That's where we connected because we are regulars, and I think we're still regulars on the CIO forum platform. And I think we're using the same platform to pretty much evangelize and talk about tech across the space. And that's where we connected back in 2016, I believe. And the Thomson Reuters business was a fantastic one because now I was working with banks, pretty much selling what we're calling treasury platforms for about 2.5 years. Then I got a chance to come up with Telco with Oracle, where I was looking after some of the biggest telcos in the region. And it was a purely commercial role to see how we're able to sell software to the telco vertical, something that I did for 4 years in Oracle, which were very rewarding because we were able to see how technology would be able to just automate, the brick and mortar that telcos still sit on, and they're trying to.
How was that? Your time at Oracle, because I know Oracle is a high octane sales machine. How was that during your 4 years?
You're right. It was first. I would say it was fast. Two, I would say it was very challenging, especially convincing telcos that they need to move away from their traditional revenue earning sources. The SIM, the calls, the data, and all, to now start looking at digital channels, to look at how they can move their HR from having a payroll that's in country to having it on cloud, to automating their supply chain systems. Very difficult conversations on telling them you need to move your finance from, this on-premise setup to take it to the cloud. So I would say it was very challenging from that particular aspect, but very rewarding to see some telcos making very bold steps on automating their processes and looking at digital channels, which has eventually led to a good number of them starting to generate revenue from very different sources in that particular space. Yeah, so Oracle was quite an adventure. And those 4 years, passed by like, 2-3 months because it was so busy to try to move them from point A to point B.
Okay.
Yeah. And, so it was a very interesting journey just to, talk to telcos about tech, see them trying to apply tech, and actually see the output of tech in terms of them just kind of like adopting these services. And I must say that, COVID also helped because COVID brought this notion of we can automate everything. We can work from home. We can digitize stuff that we normally used to do in the office. And the uptake was very high, especially in the telco space, who remained very relevant, at the heart of COVID when nobody was moving from point A to point B. And that pretty much worked for, tech companies like Oracle to just kind of like get their services deep into the telco, ecosystem. Yeah.
A friend of mine, I think a mutual friend of ours, coming back, calling it the COVID-assisted digital transformation. How much of that is really true? How much of that did you actually see? How COVID moved people digitally and transformed them digitally, almost involuntarily, forced by circumstances. COVID was probably the best digital transformation chief officer the world has ever seen.
That is very true. And if I was just to underscore what you're saying, one of the biggest problems I think we face out here is change management. We are so used to our ways, and if I tell you early today, you need to do this podcast in a different platform, you'll ask why, what will it change? But this is working for me. Why should I move this new thing? Exactly. But COVID almost forced us to embrace this entire digital transformation. But while in Oracle, Zoom pretty much moved to the Oracle cloud infrastructure, and everybody was using Zoom. So it was scaling everywhere, and everybody was trying to get onto that particular platform.
Zoom stream was just amazing.
Exactly. So it's one of those, let's say, COVID-assisted digital transformation that has now stuck to date. Because, if you were to fast forward to now, Like right now, I'm working from home. There's still that hybrid that is running. You can go to the office, yes, but you have the balance of operating from home and going from office.
So officially, where are you supposed to be based officially? This work environment, work culture, this new normal is also a very interesting story to have. You
Yeah.
cover the whole of Africa and Middle East. Officially, where is your office? Or do you even have one?
No, I do. So my base is Nairobi. At minute. So that's where my domiciled at. But if I'm not
Was
on
that your
travel,
choice? Was that your choice, or you could decide to domicile in Dubai or in Lagos or whatever? Because after all, you're covering
yeah,
Africa and Middle East.
yeah. So I could either be domiciled in Lagos, I could be in
Mm,
Johannesburg, or I could be in Dubai.
mm,
But
mm.
Nairobi made so much sense because I feel Nairobi is at the cradle of this digital transformation, and everybody is starting to see Nairobi as the Silicon Savannah. And if you look at the Middle East and Africa, every place I need to go is a flight away. So I will not be hopping over to connect flights to get to
So
that.
geographically centralized, um, very, very vibrant ecosystem.
Yes, yes.
Of course, can we brag a bit and say that Nairobi beat Paris for the best city to visit in the world? I mean, that's no small measure
Yeah,
of bragging rights. And
that's
of
a very
course, yeah, and of course for you it's home, so
so
but
and
but it's good to have choices, right?
it's good to have choices, and it's good
Mm,
also to experience different cultures and environments, much as we say we are
mm,
home and we're trying to
mm,
build a home. Yeah, so because that always changes the mindset, and you see how you can do things differently, as an individual and also as an organization.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Great. So from Oracle,
From Oracle, I joined Mastercard about a year ago.
Mastercard, about a year ago.
This very interesting role. So I've always wanted to be at the center of financial services.
Hmm.
Reason being, that, being in the FI space gives you a chance to, first of all, kind of like have an impact to the guys at the bottom of the pyramid. I would call them the unbanked in terms of bringing services to them.
Or underbanked.
Or underbanked. I think
Mm,
underbanked is a better term. And sitting in a space where you see all this firepower, and the biggest being one of the biggest change agents is, how do you make it make sense to these people who are, let's say, underbanked, and
mm,
how do you first of all localize this technology, because what
mm.
happens in Europe is not what happens in Malawi, and it's not what
Correct.
will happen in Ivory Coast. So how do you
Correct.
come back to Africa and say, you know what, we have these fantastic technologies, but do they make
Mm,
sense first of all?
mm,
And most importantly, will they able to make an impact to a person at the
mm.
bottom end of the chain? So
Yeah.
being in Mastercard gives me a chance to be able to, first of all, live that dream, and be in a space where I'm able to, make decisions and have those conversations that will be able to, drive that impact. And I think it's an exciting time to be smack where I am right now.
This is fantastic. It's
Yeah.
actually super interesting. And let me ask you,
Yeah.
Mastercard is one of the top payment platforms or ecosystems, if you want to call it, across the world.
Yeah.
Is this title that you currently have, which I find super intriguing, head of Telco Digital Partnerships, Middle East and Africa? Is this a new title, or has this position been there for a while?
So this position first has been there for a while. I would say
Mm,
globally, and I'll
mhm,
give context to that because
mhm.
Master for the longest time I think has been known as a credit card company, which is not the
Correct.
case.
Uh,
It was actually a technology company,
mm,
and reason I say that is away from the core business that it pretty much focuses on financial institutions. Mastercard has this focus what we would call segments, and segments is where you would see telco, you would see government, you would see fintech, you would see AI, you would see crypto, and in those different verticals, pretty much builds solutions that are able to, first of all, not just automate and create impact, but also deliver value to the people that sit in these particular segments. So Telco is very close to to Mastercard, because beyond what Telco can reach, or rather the reach of Telco, especially if you look at a place like is so huge. If you pick Nigeria, for example, one telco like Airtel, they already have 60 million subscribers. I mean, that's huge. You touch on, other telcos across board.
That is more than all subscribers in Kenya put together.
Exactly. Wow. Exactly.
And they are not even number one. Are they number one? Airtel?
They're number two. They're number two. Yeah. Yeah.
So number one is MTN.
Yes. Yes.
At what? And what are the numbers for MTN?
I can validate that, but they're close,
more than 60, above, obviously.
Okay. More than 60, yeah.
Quite interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, being in a space where you see this reach from telcos, and you have this sort of technology that come in between to reach this, let's call them the underbanked, then we end up looking at ourselves and saying we're sitting on such a huge potential to change the game in Africa. And Mastercard is really looking at that and seeing what essentially can it do as a technology company to be able to drive, what is famously called digital transformation to these people that are underbanked through different, value and services.
Quite interesting. I mean, first, I like the fact that you validated the fact that Mastercard is not a card company; it's a technology company.
It is.
So, allow me to read you something that I posted a couple of days ago, 4 days ago actually, on my LinkedIn page. And I appreciate that you're probably under some NDAs, so there's certain things that you can't talk about. Completely appreciate about that. Yeah. That's how it is. The battle for the hearts and minds of Africa's fintech future is on.
Yeah,
I don't know whether you saw this post of mine. In the last few days, we have seen a concerted effort by two of the world's largest payment platforms, Visa and Mastercard, to mark the fintech territory in Africa. A quick glimpse of the situation quickly tells me, number one, Visa has mainly focused on pure play fintech investments. Number two, Mastercard has mainly focused on mobile money platforms, building viable fintech ecosystems or rails for the financial services space. Number three, in 12 years, Visa has pumped in about $649.5 million in the fintech ecosystem in Africa through strategic investments, totaling 7 deals. Number four, that Mastercard, led in the fintech M&A game, has over the last 6 years pumped in $356 million on 3 deals. Jumia Group, e-commerce, Airtel Money, the mobile money arm of Airtel Africa, and of course, MTN Momo, which is still in the news. I think the ink has not even dried in that piece of news. So, what's next on the African fintech buffet table, if you allow me to use that word? The elephant in the room. Yeah. Sorry?
Go for it. Go for it before I respond.
The elephant in the room is who will back the crown jewel of Africa's fintech and mobile money space. Of course, I'm talking about M-Pesa Africa, the joint venture of Kenya's Safaricom PLC, home of M-Pesa and Vodacom. Then there's Cellulant, which is, in my humble opinion, one of the most undervalued fintech assets in the world. And, I can go on and on, but I've set the stage for our next part of our conversation. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, look, you can tell me, Ali, I'm sorry, there's this part of this conversation I can't talk about, but I'll be humbled and honored to get a glimpse of what you guys are thinking about.
Well, I think let me just start by saying that Mastercard's focus is on intuitive partnerships that will be able to build very inclusive ecosystems, and with that being said, both in the fintech and in the telco space, we actually look for what partners will be have this common intent on being very intuitive to be able to
Yeah.
change the game. And I know you've talked about Airtel. You've mentioned a couple of other telcos that Mastercard has put the skin in the game. And part of investing in this telcos and fintechs is one. If you want to bring some sort of partnership in the space, you got to put fuel in the car, and putting
Correct.
fuel in the car. You're fully vested to see the success of you two coming together. Now, if you look at the African landscape, fintechs are constantly creating. And the good thing about, some of these fintechs is they're building from ground up. So they're solving a problem. And if you're able to partner with someone who's solving a problem, whether it's a basic need or a secondary need, you're able to impact on, those particular people and individuals. So Mastercard's partnership approach has gotten us to this space where you'll see us a lot in the fintech space, partnering to co-create and build together. You'll see us a lot, likes of Airtel Africa and all, to see what can we do in the entire market, and we learn also from the different markets what to do and what not to do to be able to deliver these intuitive services. And I would say this is a very core focus for us, because we believe this is I would say this is a gold mine that has been untapped for such a long time. And even if you look at telcos, look at how mobile money or financial services are contributing to the overall annual revenues. You'd see them in the 30s, 40s. Some are even reaching 50s in some of the biggest telcos we have around, which tells you that data and services and calls are plateaued. I think enterprise is trying to figure itself out in the telcos, but the mobile financial services has kind of like got it, and it's on that particular bullet train,
running with it.
And as Mastercard was saying, you're running with it. You're on that particular train or rails. We are with you, and we are going to power it to even run faster. And with that particular view and approach, that's why you're seeing a lot of partnerships coming across board. And it's not just telcos and fintechs. You're seeing the likes of Jumia. I'm sure you've seen Glovo somewhere, because we're also looking at the merchant space, because it's also touching on the same unbanked individuals we keep talking about.
Correct.
And
Correct.
yeah, and with that diversity and scale, are we able to live with purpose to see how our technology is changing a life somewhere.
Wow. So, Lenin, I'm really curious about something. There is so much activity going on in this space.
Yes.
A couple of things. Number one, despite the immense growth and transformation that mobile money has had across Africa, we are just scratching the surface. If you take the three biggest mobile money operators in Africa, that's MTN, M-Pesa Africa, and Airtel Money.
Yep.
Those three, their monthly actual users, monthly active users of Momo across Africa is below 200 million. M-Pesa is about 61 million. MTN Money is slightly above that, around 62, depending on who you ask, million. I'm not sure about Airtel Money numbers. They don't share those numbers yet, but it's definitely below the two. So even if you say Airtel Money is 50 million, so that's 162 plus 50 is 172. 172. Africa is a continent moving towards 1.4 billion people.
Yes.
So when I hear people talk about M-Pesa being dominant or MTN being dominant, I'm like, whatever it is that you're smoking, stop smoking it. Because these guys are not dominant. Yeah. Yes, they may be dominant in Africa, but Africa is not equivalent to Kenya. You know what I mean? So
yeah, totally get.
I can see where the attraction is between Airtel, which between Mastercard, which is where you guys are focused on telco, and you are the man in the middle of the kitchen cooking that biryani, so to speak.
Yeah.
So where do you think this is going? Do you think we're ever gonna hit 60, 80% penetration rate of mobile money across Africa? Because when we hit that, that's gonna be a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, when we hit that, it will be a game changer. But I think also another stark reality is, cash is still king. And even with, the millions of subscribers you're talking about, I would believe Africa is still on the cash economy side of things. And, to move from where we are, we shall probably say it's a 10 or a 20%, if you're to sum up everything, to cover the entire 80%. I think it will take, I don't know whether to call it a revolution, to get it to that particular space. But we can only build one piece at a time to even start thinking about that, this dream that we would want to realize, to have, say, 80, 85 or 90% fully digitized on mobile money or this particular, bits of things. And if you look at even how the mobile money platforms are trying to evolve, I mean, it moved from just sending and receiving money, and now you're seeing overdraft facilities. Now they're all trying to be lifestyle applications, whereby if I want insurance, let me go to my mobile money platform. If I want to buy, stocks in the NSC, I can still find it there. If I want to book my SGR, which is a train here in Nairobi, I can still find it there. And with that, they're trying to build the stickiness of, every other person who has a, miniature phone or can access both USSD and the app, starts to get sticky with these particular services, with the hope that it scales. Touching on the people who are still on the cash side of things, I think it's going to take more than you and I to be able to realize that. But one common thing is it's going to take a lot of partnerships to be able to crack more into that particular space. So we'll have to hold hands, Mastercard, partner X, partner Y, to even start to dig deeper into growing beyond, even the subscriber base that we are all, looking at as a lens in terms of people who we can convert to mobile money services. So I think we still have a long way. Yeah, in my view, that long way is a runway of opportunity. So it's what we do with it.
Interesting. Let me ask you something. Where do you think is the pain point or roadblock for further penetration of mobile money and other digital payments across Africa? Where is the main pain point? Apart from infrastructure, we know infrastructure is an issue for sure, but where else? Yeah. Where else do you see the main pain points being?
Yeah, of course, infrastructure is the obvious one, or the elephant in the room. I think also the cost, per device has been a problem for such a long time, and you can see the device providers trying to kind of like bring in low-cost devices. I think there's, device financing on one way or another, so that people can have a device under, I don't know whether it's, how much is 4,000 shillings, Kenya shillings?
4,000 Kenya shillings today is about $300.
Yeah, is it 300 or
sorry,
$30?
$30.
You see device, retailing at $4,000 or $30, so that more people, the affordability of, a device that can be able to have an app and, access these services becomes something that can reach, the masses. I think the bigger piece is also education. I don't think we speak enough as agents of change to be able to educate about what this means, essentially how it fits into their life or ecosystem. because
Okay.
the moment I can relate with what you're telling me, the moment is the same time I can see how this applies to my daily life. But if I don't connect with this fancy tech that you're bringing to me, even the low-cost device, I will never use it. And it
It.
becomes, will not be able to scale. So I think user education is a big deal, and I don't think we're doing enough as the people who are supposed to be able to be talking into this and driving this knowledge across board. I'm not too sure whether we've boiled the ocean.
Yeah, the telcos did a very good job with this when they launched mobile money many years back, and they even had booklets. We can smile and say how funny that was that time. Yes, time now, but those booklets to show our mothers and fathers and our grandparents how to use SMS. That was revolutionary, and
That was revolutionary.
that thinking was just so simple yet so effective. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are faced with something quite interesting and almost insurmountable today. Yesterday, the Association of Fintechs hosted the Road 3i Africa Roadshow, which is supposed to be held on the 13th to 15th of May in Accra, Ghana.
Yeah.
And one of the conversations was how difficult or impossible it was for interoperability between the different mobile money platforms. Now, I doubt that this is a technology issue. I doubt that this is a technical challenge issue.
Yeah.
This is most probably inability of the different partners to sit down and have a conversation. Number one. Number two, the lack of policy frameworks to make this easier. The Association of Fintechs in Kenya and FSD, that's Financial Sector Deepening, and the Kenya Bankers Association is working on an open banking policy framework. We'd love for you guys to come in, and I will invite you for some thoughts as far as that is concerned. But why do you think it's so difficult for interoperability within the same technology? Because GSM is GSM.
Yeah.
Why can't I just send the money to somebody in Ghana with Momo who has a Momo, Airtel, MTN Momo, and I have an M-Pesa here? What is so difficult about that?
Well, I think, and this is just my personal view, I think one of the biggest hindrances to this has always been regulation and what they want to allow and what they do not want to allow. And I think our regulators, they've come a long way to where they are right now, where they're looking at possible chances of interoperability. But for the longest time, it's always been walls and walls in terms of if you're doing it here, you cannot connect and do it on the other side. And I'll go back to what I said about education, because it's not just to the the underbanked or the people who are not banked. It's also for these policy makers and the regulators that sit in this particular space, because they would easily enable such fluid conversations to happen and more interoperability to happen cross country or even across board. The second bit is even the telco operators themselves. For the longest time, it's been competition, but there's not been chances where they come together for addressing a common problem and say, you know what, if we're able to huddle and come together as telco X, Y, and Z, we'll realize impact X, which each of us will not have reached if we are doing independently. So I think it's also high time, when such opportunities present themselves, that this particular people, whether it's the regulators or whether it's telcos, they see points where they can converge to drive a particular common initiative, much as they can go back and continue with the competition that they have at hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. So basically what you're telling me is that that connection, that interoperability can happen tomorrow. Is that what you're telling me? With the right policy guidelines, frameworks.
With the right policy frameworks, the right levels of pretty much say the telcos and the regulators seeing a common finish line, I think it can be an easier conversation, and we can definitely shorten the runway as it is. It might look very long right now because we have so many hoops and hurdles to go through, but if we are all at the same window lens, I think it becomes easier to kind of like move across board. And if you look at Africa, Ali, if I may just digress a bit,
Sure.
we have the East Africa community. If you go to the West, we have ECOWAS. At what point do we have these common bodies helping such conversations to be able to move through? Let's say if something is driven at an East African community perspective, wouldn't it, hit the countries that are covered in that umbrella? You go to ECOWAS, it covers X number of countries. It will be able to, if it's interoperability across all the countries in ECOWAS, would be able to drive that. And this is just me ambitious.
Sometimes, absolutely. Sometimes I get this feeling that our politicians are on the wrong side of history, but we're not talking about politics. So let me not digress. I am in complete alignment with you on this particular issue. And what can you tell me about the MTN Mastercard deal?
So first, I can't share so much about that particular partnership beyond what you've seen in the media. That we have this attempt to partner together, on the mobile financial services side of things, and we can co-create value, through products and services that we'll be able to do in that particular space. So
the deal has recently closed, right? Or is it waiting regulatory approval in South Africa?
So it's recently closed. I think there's still a couple of hoops to be, couple of dots, T's to be crossed in terms of finalizing everything. And I think once once the cement dries, if I may use that particular term, I think more information will pretty much come out there. The exciting stuff that Mastercard will do with the telco. Yeah.
This is potentially a game changer, right?
It is a very big game that's gonna come really soon. Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I can see interoperability between cards and mobile money. I can see virtual cards integrating deeply into mobile money. Oof. I can go on and on, man. Super interesting.
And buffet.
Sorry?
As you're already unpacking the buffet as is, but
I'm already unpacking the buffet. What next? What next on the horizon?
So I mean, one, I would answer that twofold. From a Mastercard perspective, in terms of what is the segment space, first of all, is very much untapped. Much as we are doing partnerships and all, commercializing and seeing the value is something that we'll be able to do together with, say, the telcos and the fintech over the next couple of years. What next for Lenin is, I've been in the telco space for, I think, 7 years now. And I'm in this interesting space now where we're touching on to the, mobile financial services industry. I think I will still be in it for a while in terms of being in that particular thing to see the promise for Africa. I feel like the promise for Africa, the story is never told so well in terms of faster potential to what we're able to do.
Because we allow others to tell our stories. That is one of the key motivations for AliTalkstech. We must tell our own stories.
Yeah. So my personal ambition is to tell the story of Africa better and in all platforms. And by all platforms means not just in Africa, but globally. I want them to learn from, us seeing that technology and driving that particular change. That's something I'll do for a while, for the next couple of years. And I think, AliTalkstech is driving the same sort of conversation. And I think
Correct.
more we keep telling the Africa story better, the more the world will start to not just see Africa as
Stand up, stand up and take notice.
Exactly. And we'll be able to sit on all these global pedestals and go command, our fair share of voice
Fair
and
share respect.
what we bring to the table. Or perhaps we're the table, Ali. And, we're talking about bringing things to the table. So it's a high time we still drive that and get to that particular, point in space.
I think this is a perfect sort of closure point. Since you mentioned the table, I have this analogy that I really love to share with people.
Yeah.
If you walk into a restaurant, potentially you have your three things. You are the guy who walks in with a group of people to eat.
Yep.
You are the guy who is serving, the guys who walked in to eat or to drink.
Yeah.
Or you're on the menu, being eaten without realizing it.
That third option is a good one, yeah.
So you don't want to be the third option.
You don't want to be.
You don't want to be in the menu. You're being chewed without even knowing that you're being chewed.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And for you to be able to know that you will not be in the menu, you first need to be informed.
Yeah.
And if you are not informed, then there's this thing that financial players call information asymmetry and information arbitrage.
Yeah.
People make money on information arbitrage. You don't want to be that information. You want to be the player. So Lenin, for me, this has been a very, very good conversation. As we conclude, I really want to thank you for your time and for sort of opening up this discussion and opening up my season 3 with this super interesting conversation around the telco ecosystem, digital partnerships, fintech, mergers and acquisitions in the African space. And I must say this to conclude, that I wish I could be a fly on the wall in one of your conversations with the MTN guys, but c'est la vie, such is life.
C'est la vie, Ali, and let me say a big thank you. Let me just say coming soon. But I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on your platform, and thank you for not just giving me a chance to.
Thank you, brother. You're absolutely welcome. Absolutely welcome. Asante sana, and
to be back again. I look forward to be back again on your platform, because I feel like the stories be told much better.
The story is just starting, The day you guys bag the big elephant, you'll be back here.
That's a good way to.
Asante sana, brother. Take care.
Great appreciate this.
And you have a good afternoon and good evening.
Have a lovely afternoon.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.